glory of God.
What are we going to do today?
We're going to do a video and we're going to talk and I'm going to go army crawl.
Sounds
Right.
fun.
So people will see you, right?
Yeah.
Okay, go work hard.
Work.
Okay, so today's video is having my mom be part of it. You don't see her often. This is Kay, or Grandma, whatever you want to call her. Anyway, we have been talking about a thing called aphantasia recently, which I think we originally found out about because our adult son, Nathaniel, wrote to us one day and said that he couldn't visualize. He's a cook. Well, that's what he did. He's not currently doing that, but he used to work as like a chef in the kitchen. Hi. And he would decide, what do you want?
You want to
say hi? Go ahead, say hi.
Hey.
You can wait.
Okay, so he was talking about making a special in the kitchen and how he knew the flavors that went together. Like he just knew what was supposed to go together, but he couldn't visualize the meal. It was just, it would be what it was on the plate. Where I think I would think I'm going to lay down chicken and then on a nice bed of green and then it's going to have a red sauce over the top. He doesn't think in those terms. And that made us start looking to this thing because Mark was like, what do you mean you would visualize a plate of chicken?
What are y'all talking about?
And so we came to find out they say 1 to 5% of people have this. But as we've been looking more into it, it seems that people who have it don't necessarily know that everybody else has the ability to picture things in their head.
Does a fish know he's wet?
Right. They just think that when someone says, picture this, we're just kind of figuratively talking about picturing something. They don't realize that it actually makes a picture in our head. So, for everyone here, if I asked you to close your eyes and picture a sunset, what does that look like in your head? Just a brief description. So if I were to tell you to picture a
Can I start
sunset,
first?
you can start first.
It looks like my eyes are closed. So it's hard.
We were trying to do this last night, so we actually did think about this. So when I pictured last night, you guys think, when I pictured last night, I was picturing sitting on a beach and seeing the sun coming, like going down over the water. We used to live in Key West, and so I was picturing familiar, but it wasn't like exactly a place I had been.
I have a picture of something like that somewhere, like on
Yeah.
camera.
I picture looking out my back door and looking at the sunset over the trees, or between the trees, I guess. And it's, you know, the colors that I see in the clouds and how they are.
So you see it in color.
I see it in color.
You see
Oh,
it.
yeah,
Is it
definitely.
moving?
I picture Tennessee, the mountains,
Like-
the sun going down behind the mountains.
Mm.
What I was thinking too.
And you can actually, can you see something or are you just thinking about it?
I just like thinking about it.
But
Do
if
you
you close
see
your eyes,
it?
can you like make that picture in your head?
Not really.
Not really.
I can
Okay.
like see the sun going down over LeConte with like a red tint to the sky.
LeConte is
Okay.
a mountain in Knoxville, Tennessee, that you've never been on.
But I've seen it.
But she's visualizing the sun going down over the top, not like you're on the mountain.
No, not like I'm on the mountain. Like seeing it.
Okay,
Okay.
Virginia.
Okay, so I was just gonna say, you're right. He's sitting over there with his eyes closed. Can you see a sunset? You don't want to answer? Okay.
What do you think? Or what do you
Well,
experience?
you mentioned that Key West thing, so I can. The picture that we had on a postcard of Key West, I think there was a boat in it. I think there was a boat in the picture, and it was the sunset at Mallory Square. So, like, yeah, I don't know how to describe it. It's so weird.
So while you're talking about your things, I'm picturing in my head what it would look like if I was there.
Okay.
You know, the Mallory Square, I've been there, I know what, so I'm picturing a sunset there, I'm picturing a sunset over a mountain. You know, it's all
Yeah.
very vivid in my head.
Do you have to close your eyes?
No.
No.
Okay, hold on a second.
Really? Okay.
Samuel, talk really loud, but did you visualize something?
No, but I am able to describe a place,
Uh-huh.
but I can't visualize.
You can't see it.
Hmm.
Well,
Okay.
well, maybe I have a drama plans for like houses that I want to build when I grow up, and I might be able to visualize inside them,
Okay.
but it's
you're not
just
sure?
a made up place.
Well, as we talk, maybe we'll find more. So we have found that this does have a genetic link to it. Hey, you're being
My
a little
mother
busy.
says she can't visualize things either.
Right. So another thing that was talked about on the video. So I want you to explain how you would do this process. In the testing, he asked people how many windows were in their house. How would you figure that out?
I'd go room by room and count them in my head.
But you'd like visually walk around the house.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so the bathroom has one above the toilet, and our room has 4 with our desk, like with the file cabinet in the middle.
So how are you doing that?
Are you seeing the room?
I'm like counting the windows.
I can.
If I weren't
see.
here sitting here looking at all the windows, then I'd probably be visualizing.
Okay, so like our
Now
friends
that
has
I'm
a
thinking about
tendency.
the rooms I can't see, yeah, I'm like looking at the windows.
Like our friend's house in Tennessee. Can you see that since you're not sitting in the house?
I can tell that there
Aren't there 7 windows or something?
I can't tell you how I do it, but I can tell you how many windows are
Yeah.
in this house.
There's 7 windows on the sun porch.
There's actually 8.
8.
There's 3 and 3 and 2 and then the door.
I mean, they're blotted.
Now, how do I know that?
Oh, on the sun
Oh,
porch.
sorry.
Yeah.
I thought he meant this
Oh,
sun.
yeah.
Sorry. Somebody else's sun porch. Our sun porch has 8 and 1 because I bought those windows and I remember the numbers for those windows. From like 8 years ago.
Oh, more than that.
There's not.
Oh, okay, so
Oh,
another concept. Everyone, Samuel, you think about this too. So if you have to do a math problem, like 27 minus 13, how do you do that?
Well, one way
I got a
is you
calculator.
write 27 minus 13,
In your head?
or with your finger.
She means
Not
just
in the air. Yeah, not in the, not
Oh.
on a piece of paper. So 7 minus 3 is 4.
I picture the numbers in my head.
I picture the numbers in my head
I write
too.
them in my head or whatever. They're there.
I picture them because I'm able to like keep them in the right places.
I just look at the numbers.
I try to remember where they were.
But you
One
look at them.
of the things, because the camera can't hear 3 people. Or I can't anyway.
You look
Maybe
at
the
them.
camera can. I cannot.
How do you look at them?
I look at them.
But if
and
you
I don't
can't-
like visualize.
If you can't write it down on a piece of paper.
If I just told you those numbers, 27 minus 13. Keep going, you're doing good.
27 minus 13. I wouldn't like visualize them.
You wouldn't visualize them?
So how would you figure it out?
I just.
Well, Mark doesn't either.
Yeah.
So there are multiple ways that people that have absolutely no visualization ability calculate sums without writing them down. There's visual memory, there's working memory, there's like made up memory. You guys can like make stuff up and then remember what you made up, I guess. Like you guys wake up every morning and talk about your dreams.
Yeah. I know my dreams.
You know your dreams, can you see them? But do you remember when you had a dream and what it was about and who was there? And can you smell things in your dreams?
No, but sometimes. Last time I had a dream, I didn't remember who was in my dream.
I don't know if I can smell things in my dreams, but I can taste things in my dreams.
What?
Like if there's a good piece of cake, I can pick it up and eat it and I taste
What?
Okay, Samuel,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on this number thing? Like, do you visualize numbers? If I gave you a math problem for your head?
So you like 12 plus 13. How do you figure that out on a paper? Or a calculator?
I don't know. I just like. I don't visualize them, but I know what the numbers are. Sometimes, like on a flat surface or even in the air, I like mark them with my finger and then.
So most people who can't visualize cannot explain how they do it.
Right.
So it may be that they actually can, but they can't access that in the conscious. They've even talked about some people, you give them descriptions that are supposed to trigger the frontal lobe, but it triggers some other lobe in your brain. Like if you tell somebody something and introduce them to this whole complex story, their vision center never kicks in. But other parts of their brain do.
So last night, one of the things we were finding about this vision thing is if you, a person who can picture these
Doing
things, visualizes a bright sunny day, their pupils actually constrict
Oh, wow.
while they're visualizing. And if you tell them to think of a moonlight walk, their pupils dilate. But people who don't have this ability, their eyes don't do that.
So did you try it?
So, well, because I close my eyes. So, but they had done like a scientific test, and they had found out that people's pupils. So,
They've
like,
done
even
EEGs
just.
and MRIs and all
So
kinds
do you
of stuff.
close your eyes or open your eyes to do this?
I usually close my eyes, but they were also like just like backlit figure would cause their eyes to constrict or dilate. So it was interesting. Okay, so it's okay.
I'm just gonna say, like, we're all Christians in this room. Thinking about the way these guys talk about imagination, memory, visualization, and those kinds of things makes me think, one, how on earth could you ever be bored if you can just conjure up whole things in your head with storylines and tastes and smells and people that you've never met before and be places you've never been before? How could you ever be bored would be number one. And then two, how much more awesome is God who made not only the physical world, but the ability for your brain to work in those kind of ways. Like, the fact that mine doesn't work isn't a disability. I see things differently than other people. I'm partially colorblind. I see things differently than other people. But I do see. But this, I can't see at all. And God made my brain the way it is, maybe just show everybody else exactly how blessed they are. But anyway,
Okay, so
I was thinking about that.
Virginia had an aha moment.
I wrote a fictional work,
Right.
and I would create what these people were saying to one another in these conversations and everything. But you don't really like fiction.
I hate fiction.
Is it because
It's not
you,
real.
Is it because you can't picture it?
Yeah.
Most people with aphantasia don't like fiction.
Don't enjoy fiction at all.
And most wasn't
They
it most
might enjoy a fictional movie where someone actually gives them the sounds and the sights and the complexity of the background and all that kind of stuff. But most people that see the world like I do don't enjoy fiction at all. Certainly not reading fiction. I find it useless.
And I prefer not watching music videos or regular videos because I like to read a book and picture it in my own head, or listen to a piece of music and just visualize it in my own head.
Some people don't
So I said that to Mark last night about how I don't like it because I've already made a character in my head and their character doesn't match mine.
Right.
And he's like, but it's just an imaginary character anyway. And I was like, I know.
They can hide.
So another thing we were talking about last night is, how was I going to say it?
Wow.
So just the idea of like imaginary characters. Mark can't, when we read Bible, he does not picture the characters. He thinks it's odd that I would think of the army marching forward, or David and Goliath, and like he's this, like
wow.
Mark doesn't.
Or going through the Red Sea when it
Yeah,
spreads.
Mark doesn't picture any of
Oh
that.
wow.
Sorry for the noise.
Boring.
I'm trying to make yogurt, so I need to run some
Boring.
hot water.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Maybe I'm the boring one.
I'm trying to think about whether I picture it or
Oh, pause for a second. We need to put our cooler somewhere where if it leaks, in the bathtub or something. Our cooler. So we have a cooler that shouldn't leak, but last time water leaked out of it. Don't know how it happened.
Okay, I'm gonna make yogurt in our shower today.
We all just took showers. We're good.
And then I'll run water in there so you guys won't hear me.
So like we've been reading Matthew, can you like see Jesus getting into the boat?
I mean, I don't.
And walking on the water and yeah.
So I totally.
See, I can visualize things, but I don't think I usually do when like reading a book.
So
That's
like.
how I keep it straight.
So like the idea of the graven, not making for yourself a graven image, like for Mark, he'd have to like put work into like creating an image on paper or something.
I can draw a really lousy stick man.
But I'm saying I like have a graven image in my mind, if that's what you
what?
would call it.
Get rid of that.
No, but I'm saying like I picture Jesus as somebody. I don't picture him as like a ball of light.
Oh,
I picture
second
people
commandment violation.
going in a boat. But I'm not worshiping the guy in my head.
to me doesn't have. I don't put faces on people per se. I mean, I wouldn't say.
She has a faceless Jesus.
He looks, you know, he looks like, you know, Brad Pitt or something. You know, I mean, I don't put a face on him. It's just a figure.
Can you put a face on other people? Is it like
Just Jesus.
it's like a second commandment violation?
No.
Kill someone or something?
Well,
I'm so confused. This
no, I guess it's pretty just. It's not blurry. It's just I don't go that in depth into it. Unless, you know, if I'm reading a book that says they have blue eyes, I might put
You
them
put
with
blue
blue
eyes.
eyes. But
But
I
because
don't.
Jesus
with no
is-
face.
Just 2 eyes somewhere in there.
Samuel, what about you? Do you visualize when we read Bible? Can you picture the people getting in the boat, or
Nope.
Or the on the hillside with the fishes and the loaves.
I
Picture all
can
the
remember
people, faceless
things
people.
like I can remember pictures and stuff that I've seen of it.
But can you make up a new picture that you've never seen?
Nope.
Okay.
so?
I can only like see Moses with the 10 Commandments, like because I've seen like pretend pictures, but I can't
Right.
really picture it in my mind.
Oh.
Yeah, I guess when I'm reading a book, I don't visualize. I mean, I can,
Good.
but I don't usually.
Okay, so we're gonna keep talking here, but we are gonna make a second part to this video because my sister and friend are coming down today, and we're gonna ask them questions. We're not gonna put them on video, but as we have
Because we've been
discussion,
talking about this for months.
but we barely mentioned it.
Off and on.
I had not told these guys. Yes, Jesse and I are coming today. So look excited.
I didn't hear you say it, but
We're doing a video somewhere, yeah.
So Mark was reading that most scientists. Okay, most scientists don't have this ability. Is that, or they do have this ability?
Of the people, there was a specific paper that was written, but it was of scientists that they polled. The vast majority of scientists were not able to do this. They had to go get a microscope, get a telescope, you know, go get a sample and actually look at it. They're not capable of doing that, which is interesting. It wasn't all scientists, but most scientists that they polled were not capable.
So it's just been a really interesting discussion, and then it does lead to other thoughts. So we were having this discussion a couple weeks ago, is how this all started, because the idea of how are we doing? Fleeting thoughts. That's right. I was like something. So the idea that you would have a thought that comes to mind, not something you're trying to have, a thought that just happens in your mind, and then you get rid of that thought. It doesn't come to fruition. Like the idea of like you don't get deep on the details of the face. So like if I'm carrying the baby and I'm suddenly like, what would happen if I dropped the baby? I'm not thinking I want to drop the baby. I'm not holding the baby in any particular way that's dangerous or anything. Just the thought of what if I drop the baby? It causes me to just hold him a little tighter and I go on with my day. I don't get into the, well, if he fell from this angle and hit his foot, he'd break his ankle, and you know, it doesn't get into all of that. It's just like the fleeting thought of what if I were to drop the baby? Or we were driving down the street having this conversation and a truck pulled out in front of us with a big tree, like a landscaping truck with a big tree on the back, and like they were gonna go plant somewhere.
And some of us thought, what would happen if that tree hit that power pole, hit that power line up above that it looked like it was about to hit? And some of us gave no thought to it.
Gave no thought to that. But it wasn't like I was driving down the road going, okay, if that tree falls out, I'm gonna swerve this direction and I'm gonna try to miss this. Like it wasn't that. It was just, you know, oh, what would happen if the tree fell out of the truck?
I don't
We're
believe
done.
I've ever had a thought like that. Like we've talked about this also at length, and I'm trying to recall, and we've talked about it before. I don't know as I've ever had it.
And so Virginia was saying about the fleeting thoughts. What was your example of the war thing?
This might have come from Sarah Malley or somebody, but it talks about taking every thought captive to the obedience of Christ. And I guess I see it as different of you're dwelling on a thought, or a thought pops into your mind that you take captive to the obedience of Christ. So think of it like a battlefield, and it's not your fault that an enemy crosses over. Like maybe you were being lax in your duty, and that's why an enemy crossed the line. But if an enemy comes out onto the field, what are you then doing with that? Like if a fleeting thought enters your mind, how do you react to it?
Hey, Samuel,
I don't
so
know if I
grab a
worded that
broom
right.
real quick.
That idea, and taking it captive. What was the other thing I was thinking?
Yes.
I don't know, we were in Matthew 5 talking about looking with lust and hating your brother and all kinds of
You
things. And I'm
can
like,
picture looking at this
I
list.
suppose this makes sense to people, and everybody's nodding their head around, and I have no idea what you're on.
Okay, so the idea,
Not
hold
that
on.
I don't sing, because I do.
Here, I'm gonna do a quick sweep because the baby's trying to eat things off the floor. So if I bump the camera, I'm sorry.
I feel like I have something that would have been a good question, but I don't remember what it was.
So anyway, the idea that if you have a fleeting thought, the fleeting thought itself is not the problem. And so I'm going to relate it to something else besides lust because I don't want to cause problems for people. But like the idea of, hold on, I'm almost done. It's probably
This
it's
is
a
the
very
weirdest video ever.
Okay, so the idea of, like, let's say, here. I have certain children who need to tell me, can you move for a second? Everything that is on their mind. Everything. And so for Mark, he thinks this person saying these things have, like, come up with this whole plan in their head to cause evil or whatever for them to tell us. So let's say the idea between thinking I'm cold and I'm done, or I'm cold, I should go get a jacket, that means I need to stand up and walk inside and get my coat, all of that
And
stuff.
never mind, that's too much work, not doing that.
Or just the thought of I'm cold, okay, it's done.
Right.
Do you get what I'm saying? That would be the fleeting thought. So for a child to come up and say, oh, I thought about running in the road. We had this happen. We were in a place where the road had been closed down. This child had never been on this road, and he said, I thought about running in the road. In my mind, it's the road's closed, I've never been on the road,
And there were a bunch of people walking.
there's a
on
bunch
the
of
road.
people, I thought about running out there. Mark's thought was, like, because he doesn't
Dangerous
picture
to run out
this,
in roads.
it's
Why would you
dangerous.
think such a thing?
Right, why would you have this evil plan in your head?
Because the entire road is closed down, and I was walking down the road, so why not?
I ran down the road to the tractor trailer and they run off the road.
But to Mark, if somebody mentions a thought like that, he thinks the person actually had to,
Plot evil in their mind.
right, instead of the thought came into their mind and our child just mentioned it to us. Does that make sense?
Because I think most people don't talk about those thoughts.
Right.
But someone with like a traumatic brain injury might.
I remember what I was going to say.
Oh yeah.
Traumatic brain injury. Do people with aphantasia have PTSD?
That was actually something I sent to Sarah this morning. I was reading about that. Post-traumatic stress disorder. So I'm not going to get into how, but I have a lot of post-traumatic stress disorder stuff. That goes with brain injuries and goes with some other stuff.
So the type of thing that would happen is if someone went through something that was really traumatic to them. So like,
Say they had a fire and they had to get out of their house because of a fire.
Right.
They're going to have stress whenever they have.
They might have
Some-
dreams about it. They might
sometimes
have
every time they smell
Fear.
smoke, they suddenly get really panicked, that type of thing.
So it's
Someone who
after.
was a soldier, we've talked about this before, who can't handle firework noises because it makes them think of back when they were on the battlefield. Those types of things. Or like that accident you saw with the tractor trailer. Had the tractor trailer gone really, really close to you, and you guys got really scared, you might get scared every time you saw a tractor trailer. Does that make
So
sense?
some people
That's
have this ability to, instead of just visualize like visual, they have, I don't know what you would call it, but auditorized, like that the sounds would trigger. The visual thing would not, and you wouldn't imagine a visual thing, but seeing something may remind you of something even if you don't get a picture of it. So it's complicated.
Another thing I was thinking of with visualizing stuff is we have friends now who bought a house from old friends of ours. So we just went to visit within the last few months or earlier this year, and I had never been in that house in the last over 10 years. Yeah, doesn't know.
Oh!
I had not
Sorry,
been
I
in the
didn't
house
go, so I can't visualize it.
for over a decade. I had not stepped foot in the house. So I was maybe 5 last time I was in the house. But when I walked in, I was like, wait, is there a bedroom behind those closets? And she's like, no, there's a bathroom. And I'm like, well, maybe. I remember our friend, I was thinking he was on the left side of the house when we came to see him one time. And it turns out he was really sick, so he was staying in that part of the house because it's like a living room. But I was thinking, we saw him on the left side of the house. That's why I was questioning whether there was a bedroom back there. Because what part of the house we had seen him in, like 12, 14 years earlier.
Yeah.
So another.
When you were like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And you remembered that. These guys also remember their childhoods, which I have some intermittent memories that I can remember something happened, but I don't have any. It's not visual, and it's also for me intermittent. I've had a lot of hits in the head. And we all know that.
So some of the people who have aphantasia issues have memory issues also, and some do not. Some can remember everything, they just can't tell you how they remember it. But I was trying to tell Mark last night, and we don't know if this has to do with aphantasia or memory issues, but if Mark said something to me, so we had this discussion recently because I've been trying to change our family's food plans. And so I used this as an example last night. If Mark had told me at some point that he didn't understand why I served crackers with soup, it's very likely that when he said that, I would have pictured where we were and had that discussion. Does that make sense? Like if he said something that I was like, I need to put this in my memory. So something that was
so the
like...
thing is, I don't remember any of this, and I have no idea what you're talking about with crackers.
No, I made this up because
Okay.
I didn't want to tell you things that I remember you saying something specific that bothered you that I've now put into this is how I run life.
Things that
Of
I have
20
not
years worth
thought
of
of
food.
since they came out of my mouth.
But
20
you
years
should
ago.
maybe mention those because maybe it was a fleeting thought.
But there are times.
Well, that's the thing. I've grown, and we've all grown and learned and changed a lot in the last 20 years. So something that I said when we first got married probably isn't even valid anymore.
Like,
But what
We didn't think we wanted children, a lot of children. We're like, no, God, no more children, and then we changed that, obviously.
But one thing that what I'm saying though is like if something was said that either was this is a really good or a really bad thing, and I put it into like I need to remember this for the future, I can think of the situation we were in and kind of why it was said or whatever. He's okay. You go play with the little ones, please. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Can you think back? Like if you were trying to think of something about Dad, my dad passed away 8 years ago. So you can say anything you want about Dad.
No, I mean, I remember the first, I think I brought this up, I remember the first time when I served strawberry shortcake, and I served it the way I grew up having it, and he was like, what are you doing? Why are you putting milk on the strawberry shortcake? It's like, well, that's just what we do. And, you know, it wasn't a huge thing, but that went into my memory bank. And
But you can remember that, and
Yeah.
then can you like remember not necessarily what he was wearing or anything, but like, do you have a memory of the talk of it, or like
what else?
I remember serving it and him saying it while I was serving it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but
Because a lot of things I can picture.
yeah, I don't remember, I don't remember when or even where. I assume we were at home.
You can remember? Can you remember?
like visualize memories. Yes.
But visualize like something like that. It's like either a big, this is a good thing, or this is a bad thing.
Yeah.
That I should remember for the future.
Oh,
Is
so-
there one you want to share? You don't have
So recent thing, like
Okay.
that whole like running in the road and the tractor trailer going on.
Yes.
That was just a few weeks ago. A month
Yeah.
ago. Can you guys like see that again?
I
Can you
wasn't
like
there.
play rewind?
Well,
Like
I
I
was in the
watched the
camera, so I
truck
don't
go off the road.
I didn't watch it go off the road, but yeah, I can visualize the rest of what happened when I was watching
The
it.
helicopter and the ambulance.
Yeah,
and
I can
you
visualize
guys
all
can
that.
visualize that.
And
I
so,
was there. You guys were sitting like 500
What
yards
color
away.
was the horse?
There was 2 horses.
They're the same colors.
I have no idea.
They're white and brown.
Yeah.
Are they?
Like a lighter brown, right? Like
Yeah.
tan. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was gonna say white and tan. So
But
I
you
was-
somehow must be able to process things because you just said there's 2 horses. There were 2 horses.
Yeah.
And you're colorblind, so.
Only red green colorblind. Like I'm not a black and white person or black and gray or whatever it is.
But not often do you get to walk down Route 1.
No.
So, I mean, like,
It's
that's.
55 mile an hour.
And also, you don't worry
walk
about
down.
hitting, and you don't worry about getting hit on Route 1 by anything except power lines.
yeah.
But like, what was the color of the pool?
Who's pool?
The pool by the tractor trailer?
Oh, I know.
I only saw that in pictures, and I know.
Most of them are blue.
Pool by
Is
the
it right?
tractor trailer? Where's the pool?
You're guessing.
Okay.
The tractor trailer almost ran into it.
The Kai's pool
Kind of
is
hidden.
gray.
Yeah. So anyway,
Can you picture
just
that?
these ideas of we just want to know from our viewers.
Right.
Can you see
I remember
if someone tells you to visualize an apple? Do you see an apple with color? Maybe a bite taken out, maybe not a bite, maybe a leaf on it, maybe a worm on it.
Maybe an albacore.
What do you visualize if
Orchard.
someone were to say that? Just do you have a picture in your head, and how does that affect your daily life? I guess is the thought. And then the idea, if you're a Christian, the idea of these fleeting thoughts and taking it captive, because Mark doesn't understand the idea. He mentioned lust before when we were talking about it.
Mhm.
Mark kind of thought that like looking at the person was lust, because he didn't know that people could picture more than that. Like we would,
lust, yeah.
right? We would say that it's. I would say that it's lust if you look at somebody and say, "Oh, they look nice," and then you keep looking at them. Like you should look away at that point, because, like, why are you continuing to look at them? But the whole idea of looking with lust and thinking, "Oh, what if that was my girlfriend or whatever?" Mark can't picture that in his head, and so taking every thought captive, he doesn't understand that because he doesn't. I'm not saying you're not sinful, but
No, I
he doesn't
am.
understand that.
And I guess I don't understand how sinful I am. Or maybe I don't understand how sinful other people are. I'm not sure.
Well, just because you don't.
Well,
I
we've
remember-
also talked about this. Hold on. We've also talked about this a little bit. Like, so if you've got someone who has that great visual capability, right?
Yeah.
That you guys can like picture anything you want to. You could draw all sorts of good things in your mind, like the Garden of Eden.
Yeah.
You could visualize what it was like to walk and talk with God and be able to eat everything except that one tree. And you can visualize all that.
I want one.
Somebody like me who has less of that can't see it as well, but can still be, we're all fallen, we can all fall into sin where we are. But what about people like Josiah who can't? It's not that Josiah doesn't sin. We're Calvinists. We believe in total accountability. And no, we don't believe in an age of accountability. You can argue about that too. But like,
Besides, he's over 8.
But he's not yet 12.
oh, they're not Mormons. All right.
Sorry, continue. Total depravity.
How does somebody like Josiah process the world? Josiah, if you take a toy from him, he doesn't get angry. He just hands it to you. You know, like. If you like, Josiah is always sitting around writing Bible verses and drawing pictures for people and telling people he's going to pray for them, and like every word out of his mouth and what seems to be most every thought in his mind is fairly pleasant. I think sometimes he's more sanctified than I am after 20 years walking with the Lord. But he does have sin. He does disobey very infrequently, I would say. But like, how does that work? If you don't have the ability to do the bad thing, maybe it's God protecting you from a sin you would fall into. Or maybe it's giving you a unique perspective that you can share with people outside. Like I do a lot of counseling. Maybe I can give a different level of counsel on a more logical level and analytical because I don't think about all those other things. I don't know. Or maybe I'm worse off and I really should be able to picture things better. I don't know.
So another
Something like
thing,
that.
I am not saying that Mark is uncaring, so do not take this as uncaring. But another thing we were realizing last night, So when I read certain books to the children, they make me cry.
Oh, yeah.
Mark doesn't.
Never happened.
Mark has no idea what
Alan
I'm talking about.
Send me your sad stories. I'll read them aloud and I will not cry. I cry over things that actually happen, but I couldn't do that over a story.
Alan
He was saying last night that he remembers crying one time reading the kids a book, but it was because something had happened. Like, we knew someone who had died, and he was still coping with that, but it had nothing to do with whatever book
Wasn't
he
the
was
book,
reading.
or even something from the book. It was just I was in the midst of trauma.
Maybe it has to do with him not liking fiction.
Yeah.
I cry when I read fiction.
But like I cry. There's this one book about Ruby Bridges. I don't remember the exact name of it, but Ruby Bridges was a little girl who was black and was being sent into the white schools when desegregation first happened. And I don't want to ruin the book for everyone, but she was a Christian and would pray for people. And when we get to that part of the story, I cry every time. It like makes me emotional. And Mark doesn't understand that.
I don't know how they do. Why would I cry them? Well, I think movies I could. I don't often, but sometimes I do. At movies, yes, I have. Like some of the Kendrick brothers.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like
Hey,
Courageous.
Kendrick
Courageous, stuff like
Brothers,
that.
make him cry.
Because they give you you get the storyline, you get the people, you get, like, I can see them interacting, I can see the person in pain. I do get it there, but I can't do that on my own by reading a book.
I just thought of something.
Oh.
You cry when you listen to Basket of Flowers in audio.
Wait, didn't
Audiobook he cries, but he doesn't
Lamplighter,
cry when he reads the real
Praise
one.
God for Lamplighter Theater, because they brought books to life that I would never have interest in.
Hey, Daddy.
Yeah.
What was I gonna say?
I don't know, you think, Nate, Virginia?
What were you doing?
Didn't I almost cry when I was reading you a part of the book that I wrote?
Yes, she cried reading me her book.
That was weird. Because I wrote it! Why would I cry? I created the thing!
So, on this note though,
Because it was a tender spot.
if you can visualize things, if you are the type of person that reads a book and visualizes things,
Read the
I
songs.
think it is very poor choice. I can't say sin for another person, but I would think it's a very poor choice to read romance novels that bring, I mean, because there are some that are more deep than others, but the idea of, I mean, even like the idea of the Hallmark movies, I don't get, we already have enough problems in this country with how we view marriage and like actually staying true to our spouse and all of those things, that these Hallmark movies where this guy from out of town comes and saves the day, even if the movie itself is not bad, makes you want for something that isn't yours. And I think people can see that more clearly in a movie than can be seen, are you okay? Than can be seen in a book. But I think in a book, and some of those books even get more saucy, risque than the movies.
Right.
But just the idea that putting those thoughts into your head. So, anyway, those are our thoughts for today. For right now.
This is part one.
Our fleeting We'll do some more later because we're
That's
gonna
our
have these
fleeting
And
thoughts
my
for
family
today.
is informing me how odd I am because I can see, smell, taste, touch, and hear things.
Wait, can we do the one thing? I found this really interesting, and Joey and Lila, you have to hear this, so I might make her text you later. But what is it about Joey and Lila that you were telling me earlier?
So I have friends who sing, so I know their voices.
They're in a band.
So I can hear them like singing and even harmonizing on a song they've never sung before. Like in my head.
And also,
So you
And then
guys
she
have
can
lots
sing
of
along with them.
abilities.
Yeah.
Wow.
And also, I am able to like remember the first Sunday we were down in Tennessee. Do you remember the first time we met all the 11?
So do you like see it?
yeah, that's something.
Yeah.
Do you like
I
visualize
just
it?
remember the story.
Oh, so you can
Okay,
visualize.
so hold on. So
Yes.
I think
I don't know.
Samuel does visualize to a point because Mark does not understand Samuel's infatuation
Proclivity to imagination.
to imagination, because if you can tell, he's dressed today like a soldier. He's really interested in Revolutionary War, and he visualizes, like, they have a whole camp set up out there. And are you visualizing yourself as that character?
I haven't made up a character.
No, but I'm saying, like, do you in your mind, are you thinking like this is the 1770s and we're out at battle and
Like,
it's
do you think
cold
you're
today?
a soldier, or are you just playing soldier?
I'm playing soldier.
You're playing soldier. Do you ever envision the battlefield or the? Do you get what I'm saying? Or do you just think I'm in my backyard making a tent?
Do you have any
I
idea what Omi's
I
talking
think
about?
when we play a battle game, I envision a battlefield, but that's the only time.
Okay, so you visual. So do you think like if we? Hold on, sorry. Okay, one more thing. So when you guys went to Valley Forge, because they went to Valley Forge a couple months ago. Could you like think of this as, wow, this was a battlefield, or are you like, hey, there's some rolling hills here?
I thought of it as this is where the American Army was, and
Could you picture?
like tents and
Yeah, tents and the people.
because all I
and
see
the-
is grass up there.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay.
interesting,
More later.
interesting thoughts. Okay, we will see you guys later on Herding Little Cows to the Glory of God.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that was Hank. Get a goodbye.
Bye.